Hi guys, it's your girl Jane of All Trades here again, and today I'm actually going to speak to you not necessarily about credit, but about the statute of limitations on debt, which is also very important if you're going to work on your credit. Of course, our credit series will be a different video. So when I say statute of limitations and whenever it comes to your credit, what you want to do is be aware of the statute of limitations within your state. So each state has a statute of limitation on how long a debt collector can actually collect on a debt, okay? So that means certain utility companies, we'll just use this as an example. Say you live in North Carolina and you have a power bill with a certain utility. Well, even though that utility company is governed by the Utilities Commission, however, the Federal Trade Commission also says that, well, if someone owes you a bill, so you owe the utility company a bill, you leave them and that bill is charged off, then at that point in time, the statute of limitations start. The clock starts ticking on that. So in North Carolina, with a certain utility company, it's 3 years. So from the last time you paid that debt or paid on that bill would be the day that it starts your 3 years. And from that point forward, they can collect the debt. Now, keep in mind, they can always sell that debt to a collector. Okay? But with that being said, the collector also has a certain amount of time that they can collect. So whenever a debt collector calls you, what you want to do is make sure you're asking the right questions, okay? There is something called time barred. What time barred means, it means that the debt collector has a certain amount of time. It's just like the statute of limitations to an extent to be able to collect on a debt or be able to sue you for a debt, okay? So you may get these threatening credit calls and someone is saying, if you don't pay us X amount of dollars by this day, then we're going to put a lien against you, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'm not saying that they can't do that, okay? What I'm saying is they only have a certain amount of time to do that. So say it's your 3 years with that utility company, and so you no longer have to pay this bill. So if you call 3 years and 2 days later from the time of that last payment and that statute of limitation has ran out, okay? At that point in time, that utility company has to allow you to get power. They may charge you a deposit, but they can't tell you, oh, you have to pay this $1,000 that you owed us from 3 years ago, okay? So that's what I mean when it comes down to statute of limitations. Now, time barred is more so for those debt collectors, okay? So with the debt collectors, what's going to happen is when a debt collector calls you, say it's something that you know for a fact the statute of limitations has ran out on, okay? What you want to do is be very specific whenever you ask them questions. You're gonna want to ask questions like, so how long have you had this debt? When is the last time a payment was received for this debt? And you want to ask, isn't this a time barred debt? You want to be very specific when you're talking to them, because debt collectors are very sneaky. Their job is to try and trick you into doing certain things or saying certain things so that they can revive this credit lien against you. Because once you back yourself into a rabbit hole, guess what they can do? It's going to start that time period all over again, okay? So for the people who have things on their credit, you don't have to pay someone to go through your credit report to see if anything is time barred. What you want to do is go to the Federal Trade Commission's website, look at their general statute for your state, and see what is the statute of limitation for certain debts. Now, we'll be clear about medical bills. Medical bills do not expire. However, usually after 7 years, they will fall off, but that does mean you still owe this debt. Technically, all debts are still owed. But when you get into the time barred thing, if you call a debt collector or a debt collector calls you and they cannot provide you with this information, then what you want to do is send them a letter within 30 days of receiving it, and you're going to dispute it, okay? This is a way of getting something off of your credit, especially if you ask them those questions, when is the last time a payment was received? isn't this time barred? You know, when did the statute of limitation run out on this? What you want to never do is admit to the debt, okay? There's a few things you don't want to do. Number one is admit to the debt. You want to make sure they provide you with all the answers to your question. You do not want to pay anything on this debt, okay? If you pay something on the debt, that's going to be considered that you're admitting that you're going to pay this debt. So guess what you just did? It's no longer, or well, put it like this, your statute of limitation has now restarted because you decided to make a payment, all right? Another thing, you don't want to make a partial payment either, because a partial payment is saying, oh, I'm agreeing to pay my debt. If they decide to say something like, oh, well, you don't have to pay all of it, you know, you can pay this amount and we'll consider it as paid, you want to get that in writing, okay? Because the main thing is, if you don't get that in writing, what's going to happen at that point in time is they can always come back and say, well, no, we never said that. And even though calls are recorded, you don't want to have to fight that in court. You want to be able to, at some point in time, if you ever had to go to court, you know, have your attorney to subpoena those records or those phone calls for that. But that's a long way down the rabbit hole when you shouldn't have to, okay? You got to understand we have so many acts, like the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, that actually prevents third parties from basically having ruthless behavior towards you, saying, you know, you're gonna get locked up if you don't do this. Another thing is, if it doesn't say that they have to quit calling you unless you personally send them a letter and tell them that you no longer want to receive calls. That's another thing. People think when somebody call you, a debt collector call you, and you say, oh, just put me on a do not call list. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. Not for a debt collector. They can continue to call you. So you have to send something to them in writing, and you also need to file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission as well as the Attorney General in the event that you have sent something to them in writing and they failed to stop calling you. So those are just some things that you want to look forward to whenever you're looking at paying something off your debt, off your credit, sorry. What you don't want to do is pay someone to do these things, because technically that's what they're looking for. The average person that you're going to pay to clean your credit up, first thing they're going to look at is the age of something on your credit report. If it doesn't look right, they're going to dispute it. More than likely, most people only have to keep records for like 3 to 6 years. So if it's something where the statute of limitations has ran out on it, more than likely that company no longer has those records. So to dispute it, it's easy to have it removed from your credit report. So make sure you're doing the small things. Please don't be paying people to do this for you. This is something that you can do yourself. Again, later on, we will have a conversation about credit. You know, I want everybody to have good credit, not just me. But like I said, having good credit does mean paying your debts, guys. So by any means, don't look at this video as a way to not pay, but look at this video as a way to understand or prioritize what's on your credit report, so you know what needs to be paid off first and in what order, okay? Again, this is your girl Jane of All Trades. The video, if you like my video, like it, share it, and thank you guys for watching, and definitely subscribe.